What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to talk about r/analog. Again, this video is going to be a little bit different than my regular content. I am going to be back next week with some street photography POVs or some Paris Fashion Week related stuff, so come back next week and we will return to our regularly scheduled programming. This week, I really just had to talk about this. I want to answer some of the discourse that I've been seeing about this, and I don't know, I want to make this video for me because I have a lot to say on the topic, clearly, and I have a platform, so dang it, I'm going to use it to say what I want to say. With all that said, if you're still here, I'm just going to jump right in. So, a few months ago, I recorded a video called NSFW Content on r/analog and the Objectification of Women. It was a very long and very detailed and somewhat personal video in which I aired several specific grievances with the particular brand of NSFW content that is posted frequently to the subreddit r/analog, which is an online community on Reddit dedicated to the sharing of film photographs. I will describe the contents of that video shortly. I'm going to go through the intro, just assuming that you kind of know what I'm talking about, and then I will kind of go over what that video said. But basically, I don't like the way that women are photographed on r/analog, and I spent a great deal of time trying to really describe why. A few months went by after I posted this video, and it got very little attention. It was sitting at like 300 views for 6 months. I was a bit disappointed because this video was one of my favorites that I have ever made, and it still is, but unfortunately the traffic to it had just completely dried up after like the 3-month mark. But because I had enjoyed making this video so much, and because it had given me so much catharsis to make it, I was thinking about doing a follow-up video. It made no sense to do a follow-up video to a video that had like 300 views. So one day, 8 months after I posted the original video, I decided to take another shot at having it find its audience, and I posted it to the subreddit r/analog community, which is a sister subreddit to r/analog. I was honestly expecting the mods to take it down pretty quickly. I thought it was gonna get maybe a few clicks, a few people watching it, a few misguided, hateful comments left on it that I could then hate read to like fire myself up to make a follow-up video on the same topic. But actually, the community responded much differently than I had anticipated. And I sincerely did not expect either the scale or the character of the response. First of all, people actually liked the video. My post wound up with like a 90% upvote ratio, which was wild to me. It got over 1,000 upvotes, which seems to be on the higher end of what you can get on r/analog community. There was over 200 comments, which included people expressing their views, sympathizing with what I had said in the video, agreeing with me and disagreeing with me. There was a lot of good criticism and bad criticism, and overall just a really robust discussion on the topic, which I think was really needed. And for maybe the first time since I started this YouTube channel, I felt like one of my videos was really contributing to the discourse at the intersection of culture and politics and photography, which is what I aim to do in a lot of these like longer form video essays. And it felt really good until the copyright strike. In this video, I will summarize the original video. I will talk about the copyright strike and ensuing situation and discourse. I will address some of the criticisms of that video that I have heard, also comments from the mods and the context that specific mods have provided. I am essentially using this video as a follow-up video to that video, the follow-up that I always really wanted to film, and also a way to describe to you what's going on. I want to thank everybody for taking interest in this situation, even if you have no idea what's going on and you just like my videos. Thanks for watching. And yeah, I'm probably gonna just jump right in. Oh, wait, no, I have a few disclaimers. So the first one is that, as with the first video, I am not speaking on behalf of all women. I know that this is not how all women feel about this, right? The term woman describes a pretty broad range of people. I would say about as broad as it gets. And I am fairly certain that there is no one concept or ideal on this planet that all of us would agree with. That said, I am speaking on this topic as a woman, and I'm fairly confident that my opinions on the matter are pretty heavily informed by my experience as a woman, especially as a woman navigating these online spaces dedicated to photography. I have a great video on this channel, albeit one of my older ones, about sexism in photography and the state of being a woman in the art and in this profession. So if you're curious about what I mean by as a woman in navigating photography-related spaces, go and watch that. Second disclaimer, I use a lot of man and woman type language in this video, and I'm really not trying to exclude trans and non-binary identities from the discussion. I actually think that the existence of those identities is pretty relevant to some of what I touch on in this video, specifically because a big theme of my criticisms of the particular brand of NSFW content posted to r/analog and other film photography subreddits is related to identity and lack thereof. And when you reduce a person to an image of their constituent body parts without a face or a name or a backstory, their identity beyond what their physical body conveys is erased. So I'm not going to touch too heavily on gender diversity and its implications in this video, but I do think that it's an important aspect to keep in mind as you're listening, and also when we discuss identity and what it means to be stripped of it. So all those disclaimers aside, let's jump right in. At the time of writing and filming this, the copyright strike on the original video is still active. In fact, it is due to either lapse and the video will go back up or not on Monday. And I am posting this video on Monday, so we will know pretty quick, I think. I'll explain more about that later, but either way, the original video that I'm referring to is available to watch, albeit edited, and I will explain that later as well. I have uploaded it to a public Google Drive, and as soon as the copyright situation is resolved, I will be re-uploading it to this channel. So you'll be able to watch it either here or on the Google Drive, but either way, the link to it is going to be down in the description, so go and check it out. I'm going to summarize it right now, but if you've already watched the whole thing and you don't want to hear the summary, you can skip to this timestamp that's here. So skip here if you don't want to hear the summary. 3, 2, 1. Okay, summary starting. This video was a 30-minute discussion of the particular brand of not safe for work content that gets posted on the subreddit r/analog. Specifically, images of thin, young, naked, white women in a narrow range of poses, in a narrow range of situations, usually without their heads and faces visible. In the original video, I compiled a pretty substantial archive of images that fit into this mold. Around 150 images in total that had been posted in just over a year to this one subreddit. In this video, I'm not going to show any images. You may have already noticed that. And the reason for that has nothing to do with the copyright strike, let that be known. It is because the first video got age restricted, and I don't want this one to get age restricted because I like it, and I want people to see it. Anyway, so in the first video, I identified a few key gripes with the images that I had collected. They are repetitive, low effort, karma farms, immune to criticism, and most importantly, they objectify young women by placing them in vulnerable positions that appeal to the male gaze, and in doing so, commodify this vulnerability. The model typically gets nothing out of her tits or vagina being posted to this internet forum, especially since she is very seldom given a first and last name, much less a tag to her social media where you can go and find her other work. I'll discuss more on this issue of tagging her with insights from an r/analog mod a little bit later. But either way, her naked body is being used as fodder for the photographer's collection of internet esteem, which might suck for her as an individual, depending on her preferences and goals, but it also sucks for women as a group, as an institution. Because these models are without identity, often deprived of a face or a head and reduced to their constituent body parts, this means that these images, a thin, young, white torso with bare tits cast in the light of a dirty window, are not photos of a particular woman with her own identity, they're photos of just woman as an identity. The problem here is not that nudity gets posted to the sub. I have no problem with artistic nudity. I admire the human body as much as the next person, but it's a question of who is depicted and who is not. Whose bodies are commodified and whose aren't. There's a really, really blatant underrepresentation of male bodies on r/analog, to say nothing of larger bodies or non-white bodies or older bodies. If the range of bodies depicted on r/analog reflected or at least approximated the range of bodies that exist in reality, I would not be making this video. I would not have a problem with it at all. My problem with this is that almost every single nude photo on this subreddit r/analog is of a thin, young, naked white woman. So when you say, oh, we're just appreciating the human form, I think you really need to be a little more honest with yourself about whose forms you appreciate and why. I don't think it's doing any great service to woman as an identity to show only one kind of woman ad nauseum, because it really, really narrows that range of attributes that we associate with the identity of woman. I know that's like a really big topic and it's a whole other thing. Maybe I'll talk about it one day, but you guys know what I mean, I think, at this point. Furthermore, there's two ways to empathize with these images. There's One way as the viewer and one as the subject. So when you look at this photo and empathize with the viewer, you're in the shoes of the photographer, documenting this beautiful woman's naked body, capturing images to peruse later at your leisure without any prying eyes or scrutiny. Equipped with the perfect justification for this activity, you're making art. It's your job or your hobby or your passion. And what a perfect art it is. It's one that allows you to gaze at and maybe even pose and direct a young naked woman to your liking and produce products that are both evidence of your justifiable art making and tools to relive the experience later on. So that's being the viewer. Empathizing with these photos as the subject, however, leaves a very different impression. One of being completely vulnerable as a photographer documents your naked body. You've given permission for this, yes, ostensibly, but once given, it can never be revoked. That photographer owns a picture of your naked body forever, and especially on film, where in order for a photo to stop existing, you have to physically destroy the object it was created on. You don't even know how the photos that were taken of you look until you receive them, and you receive them at the discretion of the photographer, if you receive them. So the act of posing is surrendering your body to the discretion of this photographer. In a professional environment, there is an assurance that the photographer will act professionally, but many of these analog photos aren't taken in a professional environment. There's no studio, there's no evidence of a hair and makeup team or even another person in the room with the photographer and model duo. These photos are taken in bedrooms and kitchens and dusty attic spaces. There's no evident professionalism within the context of the frame. Not saying that it doesn't exist outside the frame, but this is what we get when we look at the photo. I have personally heard too many stories of models who have been pressured into posing lewd or nude for photographers after arriving at the photo shoot, who have felt unsafe in saying no, or who have eventually relented after no proved ineffective. I've heard too many of these stories for me as the viewer to not have flickers of them cross my mind as I gaze upon these photos. I am sure most, if not all, of the models in these photos are completely happy with the end results and have no qualms with being posted online in this way. I'm not saying anything about the reality of what happened on the day that any one of these photos was taken. What I am talking about is the story that these photos tell, given the context of what is within the frame and the title of the image itself. So given that, given only the context of what is within the frame of the photo, these photos tell very different stories depending on whose lens you're viewing them through, be it the viewer or the subject. And that is really the crux of my argument in the first video, or at least the argument that I wish I had made a little bit more clearly. And it's also the crux of why the oversaturation of this particular brand of NSFW content on r/analog is so troubling to me. It's not just about model safety, though that is a big component and that is a really important element that I'm glad I touched on. It's also about the way that these images and the culture around them make r/analog and other photography-related spaces, both online and offline, unwelcoming to women. Because being bombarded by images of your fellow women who are photographed in ways that stir discomfort and can raise some unsettling questions, and then seeing the community react to those images positively and defend them even as being the products of someone who is simply infatuated by the human form, as many great artists in the past have been, that can really make you feel like the odd one out in these spaces. And I'm sure that is an experience that many of my female viewers are familiar with and accustomed to in professional photography environments, both online and off. So there's a few other criticisms that I touch on in my video, and they're definitely not as important. There's the fact that these things are karma farms. Somebody just needs to post pictures of tits and then profit, and that is your recipe to success as a photographer on Reddit, apparently. And then there's also the fact that these images are immune to criticism because the mods seem to remove any comments that point out that the photo is bad because of the subject matter, which means you're not allowed to criticize a photo that is literally just a photo of someone's vagina for being just a photo of someone's vagina. You have to find something else to criticize about it. And people have found very interesting ways of going about this, saying things like, what were you going for with this? Or what were you trying to express with this photo? But really what they're saying is, why did you think that the internet needed another picture of someone's vagina? And if you do say that, then you'll get banned pretty much immediately, which is exactly why I got banned from r/analog in the first place. So that kind of silencing of criticism makes it very difficult to have discussions around this topic. And more so in that a lot of discussions that do get started around this topic are then locked or removed by the moderators. Further evidence of this was provided when I posted my video on r/analog community, and it got over 200 comments before the moderators locked the thread, which shows me that people do want to talk about this. People do have things to say, and they just don't have an outlet or a forum to do it, despite the fact that we have this forum that's dedicated to the discussion of photography-related topics. It's very frustrating. Having said that, I suspect that the reason why the mods locked the comment section to the post where I shared this video had something to do with a certain user leaving a fairly lengthy and particularly threatening message in the comment section. Which brings me to the copyright strike. So if you skipped the summary and you skipped straight here, welcome. I am going to talk about the copyright strike. I'm going to tread carefully here because at the time of recording this, I already have one active copyright strike against my channel, and I don't know if the user who struck the first video would be inclined to strike this one for any reason, but I really don't want to give him one. So I'm not even going to use his name. I'm just going to call him Striker, which sounds like a Marvel villain, and maybe it actually is a Marvel villain. So Striker is a repeat offender on r/analog. He posts photographs of thin, young, naked white women to a handful of photography subreddits every few days, and I actually didn't realize that I used so many of his photos in my first video. I wasn't keeping track of the usernames of the folks whose images I downloaded and screenshot for that video, but yeah, it turns out that quite a few of the photos in the video were his. And there's two ways to take criticism. One is constructively, and one is destructively, apparently. So shortly after I posted my video, and the post began to gain traction in r/analog community, Striker posted this comment. Pause the video to read it if you like. He comes across as very thoughtful and measured, though he appears to have taken the first video quite personally. He spends a good chunk of his message defending his process for photographing models, admitting that the models are unpaid. He then goes on to state that because I used his photos in my video without permission, that he believed I had violated his copyright. Now, a bit of a tangent here. And I know, I'm sorry, this video is so long. But I think he kind of misses the point that I was trying to make in that video. And this misinterpretation has become something of a running theme in the criticism that has been levied against that video and that I've been reading. And so I want to address it. Points that I make in that video and this one, it's not a discussion of each individual photographer and model's relationship, nor is it an exploration of how each of these photos is actually made, nor is it an accusation specifically directed towards the photographers whose work I was depicting in that first video, Striker and others. I think that this is my bad, right? Like, I did not make this very clear in that video, which is why I am putting so much effort into a follow-up. I didn't make it clear enough that I'm critiquing the photos as a genre, using only the context that is available within the photos themselves and their accompanying posts. When you scroll through this subreddit, taking in the images, you're not clicking on each photo, each photographer, investigating them and their social media, seeing how they interact with their subjects and their models. You're looking at a photo and then moving on. So when I talk about this problem with the way that women are photographed, I don't mean on the day at the time that they're photographed. I am talking about what the photograph conveys, whether or not that reflects the particular reality behind each individual photograph. In a lot of the criticism that I received about my first video, people were saying that I was imposing my assumptions on the photos, and that these assumptions aren't reality, and that I haven't taken the time to investigate if they're true or not for the photos that I compiled, that my own biases were contaminating my viewership of these images. And that's it, right? When I talk about the way that these photos come across, I'm talking about assumptions. I'm talking about my implicit assumptions as a female viewer, what these images bring to my mind. Not to the minds of all women, but to my mind as a woman. And that's what the male gaze is about too, really. It's about looking at a picture of a naked woman sprawled out on a bed and making an assumption about why she's there. That assumption is what makes the photo appealing to some and unsettling to others. Neither of us are looking at a photo of a naked woman sprawled across a bed and thinking, ah yes, a photo depicting a professional relationship between photographer and model who have come to a mutual agreement about the purpose of this encounter. No, we are using fragments of the image that are contained within the frame and possibly the title to derive an understanding of that image and what is going on in it. And what I really should have done a better job conveying in my first video is that these fragments, subject, situation, perspective, read very differently to viewers whose perspectives are informed by different lived experiences. My perspective is informed by my lived experience, both as a woman and as a female photographer. And when I convey that perspective to you, you can't then just tell me that that perspective is wrong. You can criticize my video for other reasons, and there's lots of valid criticism, but this one I really wanted to fire back on. Anyway, the copyright strike, that's tangent over. So before I even saw the comment that Stryker left on my post, another user commented replying to it, saying exactly what I would have said, but with better detail and with like sources cited. And that is essentially that my use of Stryker's photographs in my video is covered and protected under fair use. Fair use essentially means that you can use copywritten material for a variety of protected purposes, including criticism and comment, and that these uses do not constitute an infringement of copyright. People who watch YouTube, I think pretty much anybody who watches a lot of YouTube, you guys know what fair use is, because most YouTubers who do like big video essays will do like a fair use disclaimer at the beginning, and maybe I should start. But anyways, there's a few qualifiers for this fair use denomination, specifically whether the purpose of the use is commercial or for non-profit purposes. My video was not monetized, nor are any of the videos on my channel currently monetized. I have not hit the goals that YouTube requires of you to monetize your videos. So I've never made any money off this channel, and I certainly never made any money off that video. I think my use is pretty non-profit. Also, another qualifier is the amount and substantiality of the portion used in relation to the copywritten work as a whole. So yes, I used the whole photograph, but they are shown on screen for like a split second. The work is not about his photograph. It's not about him, contrary to what he might believe. The photos were flashed on screen alongside about 100 other images, including within a collage, to illustrate a broader trend, and by no means constituted a substantial portion of the value of my video. So I think that covers that one as well. And the final qualifier is the effect of the use upon the potential market for the value of the copywritten work. In order to affect the market value of the copywritten work, I would assume that it needs to have a market value, and he has stated himself, and I have screenshots, that he works on a TFP basis with his models, which means they're both trading their time in exchange for each other's services, and that, quote, neither party derives financial benefits from the realized photo session. So he is not making money off of these photos, he is not making money off of posting them online, therefore I cannot derive him of any potential profit by showing his photos for a split second in my video. So yeah, I think I'm protected under fair use, which is why I say this copyright strike is illegitimate, and why it is so frustrating that pretty much anybody, I guess, for any reason, can just strike your channel and have your video taken down and make you jump through a bunch of legal loopholes to get it put back up, and I'll get to that. So there is a line in one of the links that this user posted linking to different copyright resources that states, where practical, use of copyright materials is accompanied by a sufficient acknowledgement. This is actually referring to quotations, attributing the source of the quotation, and it's also not present in the actual law outlining what is meant by fair use. Here's the law. So Stryker makes a comment implying that, I'm not actually protected by fair use because I didn't appropriately attribute him as the source of the photos, to which I replied saying that I would be happy to tag Stryker's photos in my video if that was really what he wanted. Why would you? But that I had initially refrained from doing so because I did not want my use of the photos to reflect on any one individual. I wasn't critiquing individuals, and I didn't want the video to be about individuals. I wanted it to be about this broader trend, this broader genre on this particular internet community and in the photography community at large. We have a little back and forth, and then he sends me a DM, and I do not want to show you DMs because I don't like it when people do that. It's a direct message to me. If he wanted it to be public, he could have posted it publicly. He sent it to me. I am going to summarize what he said though, because I want to make a clear record. And if he feels like I am misrepresenting him, then he is welcome to make his own video on the topic. So anyway, he sends me a DM. He asks me to remove the photos of his from my video, and he says the topic of the video is important, but that he doesn't want his photos to be associated with my discussion of abuse. He also states that he has received messages from models who are in the photos that I use in my video, and that it was wrong of me to include them without their consent. Put a pin in that, because that's something I'm going to talk about at the end of this video. Then, in a second message, he says I discussed the topic by flattening it, and that in Poland they're still fighting for the right to have tattoos in the workplace, and that these photographs and photographing these models is part of the dreams of these girls, and that I'm trampling on them in my video. He makes this equivalency between photographing girls naked and having tattoos in the workplace, and can't like reconcile how those two things are related. He ends the message by threatening to report my YouTube channel for copyright infringement and defamation, and states that he will take legal action if I do not comply with his request to take down his photos. So I am not sure if there's like a language barrier here or if I really am interpreting what he's saying, but what I got from his second message was that the culture in Poland is oppressive to women and other forms of self-expression, i.e. tattoos in the workplace, and that photographing women naked is somehow pushing back against that oppression. So basically what he tells me in this message is that we are speaking completely different languages. He speaks perfect English, but the language barrier is a political one. My video, this video, and my previous ones, and every video on my channel are written in the political language of the internet and culture that I am surrounded by and accustomed to. The English internet, and maybe specifically the North American internet, and also my Western Canadian culture. And in this culture, the oppression of women manifests as us being depicted as sex objects and lauded for our bodily attributes so long as they satisfy a very narrow set of criteria. The media that I am exposed to is hypersaturated with images of young, thin, mostly naked white women, their disembodied breasts, legs, headless torsos being used in advertisements telling me items that I don't need in order to make myself more appealing to men and thus more deserving of respect in some regard and more easily derided in another. I have no idea what it's like in Poland, but I cannot comprehend a cultural landscape in which photographing thin, naked white women in compromising ways is in any way rebelling against the oppression of women. Apparently it is in Poland, and I'll just have to take his word for it, but I sincerely cannot comprehend it. There's no hope of discussion. The political language barrier was a wall looming in front of me after reading this. Now, I know the frustration of trying to argue across a political language barrier all too well. I used to be in electoral politics. I have a degree in political science. I've done my fair share of arguing with strangers on the internet who do not speak the same language as me, politically speaking, and I know well enough that it is a waste of everybody's time and energy. And so I replied to him telling him that I absolutely wouldn't be taking the photos out of my video, but that he was welcome to attempt to copyright strike it if he wanted, and then I blocked him. Does it come across as the most mature response? No. Do I regret it? No. So then Stryker made his strike against my channel, and the video was removed. I immediately contested the strike, which required that I submit a legal document to YouTube containing my full name and home address and contact information, and they forwarded that document to him. Which, thanks YouTube, I'm really glad that this man from the internet who's angry at me about a video I made now has my full home address and knows where to find me. Not that I think that's actually a problem in this particular situation. This guy seems like a rational human being who I do just disagree with, and I'm not like afraid for my safety or anything, but God, what a terrible system. Like, anybody can just strike your video for any reason apparently, and you have to give them your home address in order to get the video put back up? What is that? Is that true? Is that like just how it works on YouTube? I see why people are upset about it. Anyways, moving on. Upon receipt of this document, he had 10 US business days to reply to YouTube with evidence that he had taken legal action against me, so I guess filing a lawsuit. And if he failed to provide that evidence within the 10 US business days, then the video will go back up. As of the day that this video right now is being posted, it will have been 10 full US business days. So I guess we'll know soon enough one way or the other. I will leave an update in the description of this video once I have it. Good luck finding a lawyer who will take you up on this when the copyright strike is so clearly illegitimate as I have detailed above. So anyway, if my initial video sparked discourse, the near immediate removal of my video due to an illegitimate copyright strike certainly stoked this flame. In the following days, after the copyright strike and the video and the whole thing happened, I admit that I feasted on the discourse taking place around this video and this situation. I absolutely feasted on it. I had a great deal of people reach out to me asking for a copy of the video, which I was hesitant to supply for reasons that I will get into at the end, but it's available now in the description of this video, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to re-upload it onto my channel, so you'll see it pretty quick if you want to. I also saw a few posts on different subreddits specifically referencing this situation and its aftermath. There was this post in r/analog circle jerk titled "A Story in 2 Parts," which really sums up the frustration of speaking about this topic. I mean, I talk about mods deleting comments that criticize NSFW posts for their subject matter, but then they also remove or lock posts that are dedicated to this discussion, shutting down the discussion before the community has really had a chance to have it. Feeling this frustration, I went and made my own video on my own platform about this just to say what I had to say about it, and then that video got removed. Illegally, mind you. Like, just let us talk about it somewhere. Please. Lenny the mage. I know if you're watching this, you're thinking right now, oh, there's perfectly good reasons why it's being removed. Tell us the reasons. Thank you to the mods of r/analog circle jerk who actually left this discussion open and made a post proclaiming that they were leaving the discussion open, because there was some great criticism to the video in that discussion. There was some illegitimate criticism as well, but lots of things that I talked about in this video, and like that informed this video. If we can't have a place to discuss this topic, I would at least like to see an explanation from the mod team as to why. That brings me to the moderator response, which was insightful. So the mod, Lenny the Mage, seems to have actually watched my video and afterward weighed in with some extra context, which I really appreciate. I'm gonna go over what they said, and then I'm gonna give my notes on each. So the mage says that there is a general rule to avoid having social media tags because it becomes a tag fest on every photo. They say that most of the comments they remove from not safe for work posts are further objectifying the subject and not pushing towards the discussion that I point out in my video. They like my comment about nudity not being the problem, but rather who is depicted and who is not, who benefits and who doesn't, which, if you wanted to distill the entire video into one sentence, I think that's actually probably a pretty good one. And finally, they say, the algorithm does seem to push not safe for work content more than others, which is interesting. They say in a blind test on an alt account that does not interact with not safe for work posts, they were shown NSFW posts on r/analog with only a handful of upvotes before they saw the top post of the day that had hundreds or even thousands of upvotes. So that is some pretty valuable context here, and it does change a bit of what I said in the first video. In that video, I attributed the lack of tags and model credit to the photographers, which it appears that it's actually a problem with the subreddit and the subreddit's rules. So I think this is a pretty clear and easy first step towards fixing that particular part of the problem. We can allow photographers to tag models and add links to their social media so that at least we know who we're looking at, we know which set of tits this is, who it belongs to. We can see their other work. They might benefit from getting a few internet points sent their way and traffic to their social media pages as well. And it also assures the viewer that the model is okay with being posted like this. If we can go on and see that she posted the same photo to her Instagram or whatever, then we know that she's fine with it, and then everybody's happy. At least that part is resolved, right? Can we do that? Can we just make that happen? Just let photographers tag models? I don't know. It seems like a pretty quick fix. Anyways, moving on. The bit about the algorithm, wow, that is a weird aspect of this that I did not consider at all in my first video. I didn't consider that the algorithm might just be showing me a lot of this content. I don't know why, because I have never interacted with an NSFW post in like a positive way. Like, I guess, yeah, if there's like a really good one that's like really nice, and I showed some in my last video, then I'll upvote it, but no more than I upvote any other kind of content on Reddit, right? And I would say probably 95% of the NSFW posts that are shown to me, I wind up downvoting. So why the algorithm would be inclined to show me more of a kind of content that I only ever react to negatively, I have no idea, but clearly it is doing that. That's an interesting thing for me to consider. And also, actually now, after I posted the video and had this big community response, I have not seen a single NSFW post pop up on my Reddit homepage, like, at all. So I don't know if that's the algorithm or if those posts are actually less frequent. When I look at the most controversial posts from the last week or so, now the proportion of them that are not safe for work posts of thin, naked, young white women is significantly smaller than it was when I made my first video, like significantly smaller. At that time, pretty much every single controversial post was NSFW tagged, right? And now it's more like every third or fourth. So tell me, if you're watching this and you are a viewer or a connoisseur of r/analog, can I say that word? Have you noticed that there's less titty pictures, or is it just the algorithm giving me false hope? Let me know down in the comments. So I'm closing in on my final section here, and it's a doozy. It is a section where I have to admit wrongdoing and explain why I've been dragging my feet on uploading a mirror copy of the video somewhere else and just sending it to everybody who wanted it while this video was taken down. It's embarrassing because there was a pretty big flaw with my original video, and as proud as I am of it, I think even if the copyright strike does not go through, that I am gonna re-upload it with some edits. So One of Stryker's models reached out to me via Instagram DM shortly after Stryker did and asked me to remove 2 photos of her that were in my video. She sent me the timestamps of the photos and an explanation for why she wanted them removed. And I removed them immediately, like without even hesitating, absolutely immediately. But I did want to talk about this conversation. It's quite a lengthy conversation that we had, but in her original messages, she says something about copyright violation and says that I'm violating her good name by using the photos in this way, and that she disagrees with the context in which they were used, and I suppose the message of the video. And then she sends me a message saying that I didn't even think about how my video might affect the models, and that she could actually lose her second job because it's one thing to post nude photos on Reddit, but it's a different thing to post them on YouTube. So yeah, I didn't censor the faces of models in my original video. I just did not think about it. It was a complete oversight. It was really dumb. I absolutely should have censored the faces. I have no idea why I didn't. There's a section where I talk about their facial expressions and how typically in these photographs the expressions are vacant and staring blankly at the camera, and that is likely so that the viewer may impose their own assumptions of what this model is thinking. You know, it's like a coy, mysterious kind of look that every single model in every single one of these photos has. And I guess that section was important enough to me for some reason that I just didn't think about censoring the faces and taking it out. So I am gonna upload a new version of the video that has the faces censored. I'm not gonna remove the copywritten materials from the video because they are protected under fair use, regardless of what anyone might say about that, but I am gonna censor the faces. And whether or not I upload it to YouTube, depending on the outcome of the copyright strike, I am gonna take down the original video, I think. Unless I can find a way to upload a revised version with the censored faces to the current file holding, so it's got all the views and comments from the original video. I don't know. We'll see if that's possible. But yeah, so that's why I told a bunch of people that I was gonna send them a link to the video, and then I hesitated, and then I just never did that. Sorry if I left you hanging. It's just because I felt really bad. And you know, at first when she messaged me, I was like, okay, well, I already censored the tits and the vagina in the photo, and he didn't, and he posted it to a photography community with over 2 million active members, and I posted it to my YouTube channel that's got at that time 800 subscribers, so take it up with him. But honestly, the discussion that I had with her aside, I do want to just make sure that nobody is negatively affected by the video that I made. So censoring faces to me is the best way to do that. If her career is at risk from those photos being available to the public, then I can imagine that other people's careers are at risk too. I wish that I had responded to her a bit better. I should have probably just taken the video down, but at that point I was being pretty obstinate about not taking it down, specifically because the copyright strike was being threatened and stuff like that. So I want to wait till that's resolved before I actually do re-upload it. But yeah, I will be re-uploading it either immediately after this or on Google Drive or whatever. You'll see it down in the description below. So yeah, that's something that I want to address. Sorry about that. I feel really bad. Big oversight, big flaw with the original video. I will think harder about things like that in the future. That's all I have to say. Oh my God, was that a long video? I have been filming for 4 hours. It took me so long to get some of this stuff out. It was a lot. It was a lot to think about. It was a lot to talk about. There's gonna be 100 views on this video. If you actually sat through and watched the whole thing, thank you so much. I appreciate it. But also sorry. But yeah, it was just stuff that I felt I really wanted to say. I've been thinking about this stuff a lot. It may seem like I'm going too into the weeds on stuff. This does really I guess affect the community that I participate in when I make the art that I make for a living. And as maybe mundane or tiny as this one Reddit community is, I feel the situation on Reddit is a microcosm of a broader kind of cultural problem. I spend a lot of time thinking about photography and the ethics of photography and the culture around photography, and yeah, this was just, it was on my mind. Thank you for watching. You can subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos. Probably not more videos like this, but video essay is an in-depth thing covering topics that are related to photography, sometimes very peripherally. And you can leave a like, you can leave a comment letting me know what you think. I would encourage you to do that, actually. Okay, I've talked enough. My voice is almost hoarse. So I'm gonna go. I will see you probably not next week, but the week after. I might re-upload my r/analog video next week so that I have a weekly video. We'll see. And then yeah, in the meantime, stay sharp and don't forget to keep shooting. Bye guys.